Hello and welcome everyone, Tiberius here, and OffSec, formerly Offensive Security, have announced several changes to the OSCP and OSCP exam. They did this on a Friday before a long holiday weekend here in the US because, of course they did. Why would you announce an update any other time? The only reason I heard about this was because of multiple people contacting me to tell me the OSCP would now have to be renewed every 3 years, when previously if you passed the exam, you held the cert for life. I'm going to do what OffSec should have done at the very start of their update announcement, which is state clearly that this is not happening. If you currently hold the OSCP, you still have it for life. If you pass the updated OSCP exam, you will still have the OSCP cert for life. So why do people think you have to renew it? Well, OffSec have introduced a concept called OSCP+. Very simply, starting on November 1st, 2024, if you pass the OSCP exam, you'll be awarded the OSCP Plus certification. This cert does only last for 3 years, at which point you can either renew it for another 3 years or let it expire. Here's the key thing: if you let the OSCP Plus expire, it gets transformed into a regular OSCP cert which you can keep indefinitely. Again, and I want to state this clearly, if you pass the OSCP exam once this new update comes into effect, you still get the OSCP certification for life. It's just for the first 3 years after passing, you can state you have the OSC Plus cert instead, and for longer if you choose to renew it. Before we get into the reasons why OffSec are doing this, let's quickly cover the changes to the exam itself. As far as I can tell, there are 3 main changes to the exam. The first is that the Active Directory section is no longer all or nothing in terms of points you can obtain. Previously, you would get 40 points for a complete compromise of the domain, which effectively meant compromising the domain controller and getting domain admin. If you did not do this, you would get 0 points. Now there are points for each of the 3 domain connected machines, with 2 machines worth 10 points each, and the final machine, which I'm assuming is the domain controller, being worth 20 points. The second change is that students will be provided with a set of standard user credentials on the Active Directory domain, effectively making the AD portion of the exam an assumed compromise assessment. Previously, students would have to find some exploit to gain an initial foothold on the machine and gain access to a domain account somehow. The third change is the removal of bonus points. Bonus points could previously be awarded by completing a series of exercises from the labs prior to taking the exam and were worth 10 points total. The bonus points were especially useful for students who were weakest to Active Directory, since you could miss out on the 40 points for that section, but still get the required 70 points to pass the exam. My feelings on these changes are mixed. I think allowing students to achieve partial points in the Active Directory section makes sense. After all, you could achieve partial points in the non-AD section by compromising machines but failing to escalate privileges. Likewise, I think now, with the all-or-nothing AD scoring removed, the bonus points really don't give much of an advantage, so removing them seems okay. The one change I'm a little concerned about is the Active Directory portion of the exam now being an assumed compromise. To me, it just doesn't make much sense. While assumed compromise assessments do exist, I feel like it's far more likely for pen testers to start from a completely unauthenticated perspective. Having said that, the Active Directory portion of the exam is still only worth 40 points, which means a student must also compromise at least 2 of the non-AD machines to pass, and credentials are not provided for these. This at the very least means students must show they are skilled at finding and exploiting vulnerabilities to gain access to a machine, rather than just being handed the keys. So, why are OffSec making these changes anyway? Well, while I can't comment and don't want to speculate on the exam changes themselves, the reason for the 3-year expiration of the OSCP Plus appears to be an attempt by OffSec to appease the US Department of Defense and potentially other overseas government agencies, which tend to prefer certs that have an expiration date with a specific renewal process. If you go to the DoD's Cyber Exchange website, you can find a list of approved certifications for various roles, and while Pentest Plus is listed several times, as well as CEH unfortunately, the OSCP is nowhere to be found. This is because it does not expire, thus it does not meet the requirements imposed by the DoD. By creating the OSCP Plus, I believe OffSec are trying to get on this list, while still maintaining a non-expiring option for those who do not need or wish to recertify. There have been some questions raised by the community about how the OSCP Plus will be treated by employers. Some argue it will give employers an excuse to require OSCP Plus instead of OSCP, but I'm not so sure, for 2 main reasons. Firstly, because there was nothing stopping employers from requiring a recent OSCP pass before now anyway. It's always been possible to simply retake the OSCP exam and get the cert again, something I know some UK-based testers must do for government work as well. But secondly, even if employers do this, the OSCP is supposed to be an entry-level cert. I guarantee you will learn far more about pen testing in 3 years as a pen tester than you will from the OSCP, and employers know this too. Years of experience are worth more than most certs, and the OSCP is no different. What I do think has more potential to cause issues is the name. When you have a cert called OSCP and another called OSCP+, there's going to be a subconscious bias towards the latter, simply because plus tends to mean greater. In reality, they're practically the same cert, given that OffSec so rarely change their actual exam contents. This could potentially lead to candidates with OSCP+ on their resume being favoured over candidates with OSCP, even if the latter is more experienced. I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, only time will tell. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. One final thing before I wrap up this video. Let's talk about the actual renewal process and what current OSCP holders can do if they want the new OSCP+ cert. OffSec say there are 3 ways to renew the OSCP+ for an additional 3 years. The first is by simply taking the exam again within 6 months of the expiration date. Now, I personally hate this language because within 6 months could mean either before or after that date. Maybe it's both, I don't know. It would be nice if OffSec could clear that up. The second way to renew is to pass another qualifying OffSec exam before the OSCP+ expires, and those include OSCP, OSWA, etc. The third way is currently a bit of a mystery, but it seems that OffSec will be releasing a CPE program later this year, or potentially early 2025, and presumably a student can earn credits in various ways via that, which can then be used to renew the cert. If you already have the OSCP cert and for some reason want the OSCP+, OffSec will discount the cost of the exam to $199 if you purchase it between November 1st, 2024 and March 31st, 2025. After that time, the cost will rocket up to $799. Personally, I have no plans to get the OSCP+. I think my experience speaks for itself at this point. But if you think it may help you out on your personal cybersecurity journey, you may want to consider taking advantage of that discount. Oh, and don't worry, if you have the OSCP and failed the new exam for some reason, your current OSCP isn't revoked or anything like that. Thanks so much for watching. I hope it was informative. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.